Today at Embr, its hosts Robb, Vallozzi, and Dominique and their guests are not financial advisors unless otherwise disclaimed. The content on Today at Embr is for educational and entertainment purposes only and merely cite their own personal opinions. Know that all investments involve some form of risk. Please work with an investment professional. And now, on to the show.
Hello. Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Today at Embr. I am your host, Robb Vallozzi, along with my co-host and CEO of the Embr Project, Dominique. Jason, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing great, Rob. Still can't get enough of that introduction.
I know. I love that.
Doesn't
the
it?
Music and everything. I jam out to it on my own time.
It sets the mood, and I'm super excited about this show because this is obviously the first of many. But I'll let you do the introductions.
Yeah, absolutely. The great thing, too, about season 2 for Today at Embr is that we're bringing inside some really special guests. This is the first of many. Today, our guest is the co-founder of Hacken and the CEO of HackenProof. She has been a cybersecurity professional. She's responsible for managing a huge community of white hat hackers, over 10,000, working on detecting vulnerabilities in client systems. She's organized a number of industry conference and communities for security specialists and enthusiasts. Her list of cooperating clients with HackenProof include famous brands such as CoinGecko, Gate.io, FTX, which here in Miami, we actually have the FTX Arena here, so I'm pretty proud of that as well. Avalanche and VeChain, as well as some government entities as well. I'd like to introduce our first guest here on our season from outside of our organization. Yev, how are you doing, Yev?
Hey, doing great. How about you guys?
Yeah, doing fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here today. Looking for our conversation.
Awesome. Let me just touch base on the first thing is obviously right now you guys have been at the Avalanche Summit, right?
Yeah, just arrived a couple of days after that.
Yeah, how did that go?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. You know, the whole week of super cool events, super meaningful conversations, and it was super good. A lot of stuff, hackathons, workshops, conference, side events.
Next week is Bitcoin 2022, and I know I'm going to be meeting up with one of your colleagues over there during the conference. Will you be attending as well?
Not this time. No, my US visa was rejected just 2 days ago. So
that's terrible.
Yeah, I guess they're just rejecting that for every Ukrainian these days, but my colleagues will be there.
Excellent. Yeah, I look forward to meeting with him as well. So next week is going to be jam-packed solid. So I'm sorry you can't possibly make it. And speaking of Ukraine, we're going to go over quite a few range of subjects here as well. It's a great segue. One of the things that I've been really interesting is a lot of people are talking of this groundbreaking project of 2022 is Disbalancer, which is really pretty much what's going to be one of the most powerful the DDoS attacks pretty much this year or maybe of all time, especially when it comes to, and you guys' organization is from Ukraine, and now you guys are in Portugal or Spain, is that now? Yeah,
somewhere between.
Without doxing your location.
Undisclosed location.
Yeah, exactly. Did you want to talk at all and kind of bring some insight too? I know you guys, what's going on with Ukraine and how Hacken is involved in this Disbalancer and what that means for your organization.
Yeah, just quick background. That's mainly our core team is from Ukraine and from where our office is in Kiev. And 1 week prior to the war, we decided to move a team for some time before everything would be less risky to not stop operations and to follow our obligations. And happened what happened. We decided to help us as far as we can with our knowledge in cybersecurity, and within Hacken we have several initiatives which helps Ukraine in this not only actual war but cyber war. So what we do, definitely one of the projects is Disbalancer, So prior to that, it was the project which helps to block phishing websites of crypto projects. So initial idea was like that, but we decided to qualify that for purposes that's needed now more to fight with Russian propaganda that we see all over the resources they have. That's why one of the teams like this balancer, they are working on blocking that. So the idea is pretty straightforward. Everyone who wants to help, they can do that just installing the application and helping to block these websites. So we have, I guess, around 100K downloads for this application. So people all over the world can just contribute just with their computer to help with that. So every time we have updated resources so that we are blocking. And also one of these initiatives in Ukraine, we have like IT army. They call it like that, official one. So it's around 300K users there.
And holy moly.
Yeah.
300K, that's 300,000.
Yeah, it's just Telegram channel where they do all this. Yeah. So pretty successfully coordinating all the cyber initiatives there. So like awesome. Every IT specialist, or not even IT, they are helping in the manner they can.
That's amazing. Yeah, so, I mean, the next question that sort of pops in my mind is going back, a couple of years ago when you met your co-founder, would you have thought in a million years that you'd be involved, or would involved in cyber war and things like that, and even in your own country, amongst other things, it could have been, mandated to, participate and consult in other areas of the world, but it had to fall somehow without saying that it was going to happen, but probably not.
Of course not. I guess no one expected that.
Yeah.
Like even us, till the last moment, we can't believe it can be possible. That's why we have, our stuff just for 2 weeks, just for some time when everything is good. But in fact, we don't know when we are going to be back. Hope it will be soon. Yes, definitely. When we're starting, thank you. When we're starting Hacken, we didn't even expect that we would be where we are now, because for the last 5 years, when we're starting back in 2017, nobody knew actually that this sphere would be like that, of course, because I guess cybersecurity at that time was, some nice feature to have rather than just obligation you should do while you're launching any project. Just in comparison, so our first client was I guess somewhere in January 2018. Yeah, we helped with securing the ICO at that time. And not that many companies thought about security at all. But nowadays, it's kind of obligation from regulations, from venture funds, exchanges, launchpads. Everyone understands that money is at risk. Reputation is at risk, and the consequences of cyber attacks are insane. Just 2 days ago, this Ronin stuff,
was it Ronin?
600 million.
Yeah, the biggest hack actually by wrecked leaderboard.
Well, I mean, with the attention they've been getting in terms of for anyone looking from the outside in. And you compare the activity and the volume that, obviously Axis has been generating on that chain is just mind-bending, literally mind-bending. The volume is, when you look at the quantity versus even the next biggest one, it's literally just blows it out of the water. So obviously, if you're in a position where you run a chain like Ronin, you gotta absolutely plan for the worst. It has to be your top priority. But looking at your shoulders going up like this, it sounds like maybe they weren't planning for the worst. They were just surfing on that beautiful wave of crazy volume. But I'd be curious. I mean, I'm not extremely familiar with that situation, but if you want to give our community and maybe ourselves a quick you know
kind of go through on what's going
Yeah,
on over there.
honestly, I guess the investigation is still ongoing, so no facts and results that we can discuss. But definitely, such projects are, at attention of cyber criminals, and definitely cybersecurity should be one of the top priorities to minimize risks to your investors and like every user.
I think it's crazy the fact that they're getting so much volume to begin with. If you look at that chain, I mean, it is so obtuse on how to actually use it and work within that chain itself. I don't think that they ever were actually, the user experience is out the window. I highly doubt they ever expected to have that much volume moving through it. So I'm assuming that cybersecurity and security in general was not at the forefront of their development.
Like from our experience working with hundreds of clients, there is two types of them. I would say three. So first one is coming to security because they're like wise enough. They are planning their development architecture in advance, like you guys doing security prior that. Yeah. So because you understand that it's like business risk, not just feature that nice to have. Second one is someone like running when go to security when something happened. And third one do that
more on a reactive rather than a proactive.
Yes, and third one is regarding when it's required by regulations, venture funds, or someone else. So someone pushes them to do that. So that's our observation how that works. And honestly, from our experience, it's more cool to work with the projects like yours because you understand the value of that. We shouldn't, pursue you that it's important, and it's good to have like smart conversations with smart people.
Oh, thank you.
Well, so with that in mind. And obviously, thank you for. I mean, so for those who weren't aware, so our relationship, in terms of we're pretty much, it all began as us as a client and seeking, obviously, audit from your organization on the Hacken side. And so we had those 3 smart contract when we launched our token. We had the crowd sale, we had the vault, and we had obviously the token itself. And we I don't know if you remember, but we were quite relentless on making sure that we were getting like these like top I think it's like 4-star or something like that, and we just kept coming back and etc. And I think I think this is what you're trying to get to is working, and we experience this with other partners in other areas of business, and it's the fact that once you connect on areas where your partners have at heart what you're doing at the highest most priority, then it becomes much easier to understand each other. And at this moment, this is sort of where we thought, going into our second sort of stage of what we're building, which is right now it's called checkout, but there's a lot of more coming out in the background. We thought that who wouldn't be better than Hacken. So we reached out, and you were kind enough to listen to us, and then to realize that what we're trying to address on multiple front beyond making it, because checkout has, one of the core pillars of checkout is to make Web3 sort of projects and the ecosystem as a whole more accessible. But I think that beyond that is, because we all know that this space starts with a couple strike, in the sense that a lot of people see this as sort of a Wild West, and it's you go in there at your own risk. And we think that this should not be the way you look at the space. We think that trust and security should be at the forefront, just like when Web 2 started to introduce credit card payment online, these payment gateways.
PayPal.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And you had these providers, these people that would do the transaction. And then you had the layer on top and obviously around and et cetera, that would sort of audit, quote unquote, the actual infrastructure of that payment gateway. And I think that this is where we feel that together, Embr and Hacken, we can bring something to the space that could truly, change the perception of these gateways. But obviously, people know a lot about our perspective on this initiative. But I'd be curious, and our community is obviously very interested in, how do you perceive the current state of Web3 and, this obviously the checkout, but beyond that, there's this sense of, like you're mentioning, security should be and trust should be at the forefront. But your thoughts on currently what's happening, and I know that there's your role as auditing contracts and proofing, a lot of things that eventually, I don't know if eventually or not, but there's a lot of, and I don't want to use the word rug pull and things like that, but there's a lot of ill intent in the
nefarious
space
behavior.
And it must be so hard. Like the sort of responsibility that rests on your shoulder as a team, because it's your name that's out there. So I'd be very curious to know your thoughts on, and I apologize, there's 1,000 questions in there, but you address them at your own sort of pace and rhythm.
That's pretty cool topic, honestly. And I just want to tell you one story. One of the QIC providers for like doxing teams, they told me yesterday that they had a case when team hired actors to pass the QIC.
Really?
Yes. And so they like were having a call, and they just showed the office, showed the table, like not table, the name out of the office and all this stuff.
All
and
staged.
then yes, and after that, team like of course scammed. And in fact, they realized later that it was just actors with their passports. And that was like European country, European citizen. And they were like a legal case, but then they told that there is no enough proofs, and that's all. That's about QIC, security, and other stuff. You can't be sure for 100%. But honestly, for what we are doing as well, we are trying to bring more transparency to this industry, not only by audits and smart contract audits like penetration testing, bug bounty, whatever we are doing. Also, we have like security rating product, which is part of CoinGecko, for example. And the idea behind is that we're trying to make that more transparent for users to understand which steps projects take in order to, to do something in terms of security. So when we started this project 2 or 3 years ago, there were like, almost nothing for exchanges. And after that, recently we had results that it's doubled in terms of penetration testing projects that like exchanges are doing, in terms of bug bounties they are launching. So in fact, they are doing something to be more secure. And for example, even the initiative of CoinGecko, so they have trust score. And trust score, part of that is cybersecurity. And I guess, this kind of verified trust score marks is really important to the industry, because for newcomers during all this adoption, it's really important to understand whom I can trust, which projects I can use, without that much risk. And some kind of ratings and proof marks, definitely it's something that can be done to help them, because for sure, like for newcomers, it's super difficult to go deeper. And I really like about what you're doing, because this is like trust mark or like secured or whatever. So it shows users, another layer of trust to your project, that you've tried to do everything possible to minimize risks. and here's like our measures that we done, and here's how it helps our security. And it's pretty transparent. And what I like about all the Web3 industry, that every code is like open source. You can check it, because if you're comparing, for example, like smart contracts and like Web3 finance to banks, and when hack happens in like Web3 or in bank you would like not sure when you would know about that, but in crypto
probably won't. It's not very wise to share that it happens.
Yeah, definitely. And like financial systems are getting more open, more transparent, and it's pretty cool, because the situation in banks and bank security and like Web3 security is totally different worlds. Especially, for example, we can see that even from bug bounties, because traditional Web2 bug bounties, I know the maximum is like 100K from companies like Samsung or Apple or others. Of course, they have different like payments for 0 days, but it's another story. But in crypto, you can see it's like $3 million easily, 3 million and 100K in Web2. It's insane, and that's why I like this industry. it's
a lot more opportunity.
It's pretty like transparent and moving that rapidly that you can't even be on time. Every day you have something new, and you should be like following that. So
you have to be on the ball all the time.
Yes. I actually have a follow-up to that as well, is that do you think that because of how the traditional banking system and finance is so opaque, and how that they, you're not really sure what's happening a lot in these organizations, especially when it comes to security, do you think what's happening in the DeFi sector and our sector in general is having some influence on them, on traditional banking systems, of them being a little more opaque, or are they still going to be stuck in their ways and fighting us tooth and nail?
That's an interesting question. I don't have such data, but we see that more enterprises and traditional businesses starting doing some innovations in blockchain. So they understand that they are like out of this game already, and So they definitely need to do something. But if it influenced security, I don't know. Not sure. They're trying to be on this trend, but and if you have some cases, you can share like some successful cases of banks, probably in US.
I don't have a case. I don't know if you had one in mind, Rob, when you brought it up.
No, I was just wondering too, because it's actually a discussion, because there's a lot of I guess, I don't know if it's the boomer generation or what it may be, where I see a lot of people that have no idea what the sector is. They think of it as like invisible internet money that it's totally over their head. And I know one of their big things is about the level of, they try to say how about traditional banking, at least it's banked by some actual security, and that there's, some backed by the US government, FDIC, and how that crypto is so bad for the environment. And they go through these kind of long form discussions, but in reality, I think it's actually inverse of that. People don't realize the impact that traditional banking does have on the environment when it comes to their level of security. I mean, there was a couple years back here, maybe I guess now it's going 5-6 years, was that whole Wells Fargo thing where they just signed up everyone for a credit card without their knowledge. The SEC hit them with $100 million fine, but they made $3 billion doing it. So it's the cost of business. So I think that they are kind of doing everything possible as a smear campaign because this is a real threat to traditional finance.
You know what I can say, that traditional world is trying to regulate crypto, and it's another push to security actually, because to obtain a license, exchanges needs to go through some security audit, and it's good because it's another push for crypto to be more secure in order to get this official licenses. Yeah. And I guess it's pretty good. So, but I don't know how crypto influence traditional sector. That's interesting, especially in terms of security.
Yeah. Let me this is something that just popped in my mind, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on because earlier you mentioned the whole KYC thing, and we're hearing that sort of the next step in KYC is on chain. in the sense that it would follow you, at least the initial KYC that you would have done, rather than having to do a KYC process every single time you, let's say, enter a new sort of DApp or a new exchange or something like that. And it'd be sort of something that you do once with, I don't know which provider, but you do it once. It'd be linked with potentially your wallet address, I would imagine. And as soon as you connect via Web3, it KYCs you as you go in, wherever you go, whatever you interact with. So, so first and foremost, I imagine you've heard of this, and is there any thought on would it be any different other than the fact that it would remove friction, but the security of it, what's like, would there be any difference?
That's actually great idea, and I'm pretty sure there are already some pilots on that. If we are comparing that to traditional industry, when you have this EID that you can use to log in for bank accounts, for government services, for whatever, actually, in fact, it's the same. So you have your electronic ID, let's say, verified one, and you use this everywhere you need. I don't know how it works in US, but so, for example, in Ukraine, we have this EID, and you can access all the government services, all the banks, sign the documents. Why not the same in crypto?
Yeah, North America is not as advanced as sometimes
I was just going to say we have nothing like that at all whatsoever.
I was just going to say, I think it's still hard to get a driver's license sometime, when you go to this classic joke on what's the department called?
The DMV.
The DMV.
Yeah, because it's always a joke, because the DMV is literally the bane of everyone's existence. If you lose your ID, it's like, you might as well just restart your whole life and get a new identity at that point. It'd be much easier.
Yeah. So very far from that EID thing, I think.
We recently, so I have everything on my phone. We have an application which is called DIA. It's government application where you have all driver licenses, all your passports, as far as we have internal Ukrainian passport and foreign passport. Also, it could be different tax documents, as well as we have there our vaccination. So in fact, it's my digital ID, let's say, government one, official one that I can use actually everywhere, especially traveling across Europe. I just open this application with this COVID certificate, and that's all. And I can use this application to get whatever I can in terms of government. For example, when COVID started, this application helped to track whether you're doing isolation or not. So they are doing good steps on that. And the same in crypto. So you don't need to, to go through KYC at different exchanges multiple times. I'm pretty sure everyone has troubles with that.
It's horrible for getting into the space, and just doing one, you want to enter a new chain or ecosystem or something like that, and there's so much friction. And I think that we're at a stage right now, and this is where we feel is the biggest opportunity, at least from our perspective, is to make all of that friction go away. And so it's definitely, I think, something we're looking into for sure, because this process of onboarding, new people, because right now it's this big sort of echo chamber of people that are used to dexes and that are used to all these type of things. But as soon as you want to bring someone new into the ecosystem or the crypto space, then it becomes 25 different how-to guides, and it's just never ending, and ultimately it's not fun. Where's the fun in being part of this unless you're an enthusiast, unless this interests you? But ultimately it's going back to I'd like to have a Visa card, but I don't want to know how the Visa card works. That doesn't interest me at all. I just want to apply, get it, and go wherever I want to go in the world and tap, and it's done. I don't care how you make it happen, but just do make it happen and make sure that it works every time. So this is sort of the mentality that we're trying to bring into the service we provide, in making sure that everything that when you look from the outside in that makes no sense, we want to remove it. And part of that is obviously, beginning with checkout, and then helping people get into and acquiring what they want seamlessly. But yeah, I think Web3 is right now all about user experience. And But beyond this, beyond us, I'd like to go back to Hacken and HackenProof and try to understand, and maybe you can give us, if there wouldn't have been this massive bump in the road right now, sort of
with Russia. Yeah.
what's next for Hacken? Where do you see HackenProof and Hacken? Obviously, you're more involved with HackenProof, but you're still doing a lot of business, sort of initiating and dealing with business in regards to Hacken. But where do you see you guys, in the next 3 to 5 years, and what are going to be the biggest themes you think that you're going to focus on?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely, we've got a lot of experience on our way to this point, and that's where we are playing next. So definitely, it would be like going more on auditing, on providing trust to the users, and we're working on different products around that, like QICs, audits, penetration testing, bug bounty, whatever. So we want to be a trust provider, someone like, for example, like Big Four, they have their consulting report saying this project is blah, 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 blah. Here is our sign, and we ensure that that's something what we are planning to build in Web3. And definitely the building trust, because as you mentioned, every time it's our name. So in fact, for a lot of users, it's just sign to invest. Not sure if it's good, but so they require from us actually be more than just a cybersecurity audit, more than just audit of single smart contract.
Because sorry for interrupting, because what you've just mentioned, I think, is, and in our process of seeking a partner for audit, and maybe you'll want to comment on this or not, but what we found is that there is such a massive opportunity to not care if you're an auditing company, and just milk it, and just truly milk it. Because
and we see that a lot too with a lot of these other projects that turn out to be, I hate to use the word rug pull, where they put out these audits that are really not an audit. I mean, it's just,
and you
they're
get
just taking
like
their
this
money in or giving a seal of approval. It's like a one sheet of
what's the one that we saw was like cupcake audit?
Yeah, something so ridiculous. But the worst part is people in the space were like, "Yes, it's been audited. See, it's legitimate."
Been audited, and you read the audit, and it's like word for word a marketing document. It's like word for word the pitch, like the pain
to sell the token, not to even, there's like no actual third party
and beyond that. And this is where I'll let you comment or not. But beyond that, I think ultimately it comes down to the innocence of the investor, in the sense that, not that he's stupid, it's just that it's like, how can they know better, in the sense that they've never really potentially saw like an audit. They're so motivated by greed. They're so like all of these. It's the perfect
FOMO.
storm for ill intent, and just like, obviously, hopefully in the next year or two, there's going to be a lot of cleanup, and people will start noticing what is real and not real, and etc. But like you're mentioning, putting your name out there and truly being a brand that equals trust. And to be frank, when you gave us some of your early feedback in our audit, we thought, like, seriously, like these little things, okay, we'll get them done, and we'll uniformize, our sort of how we wrote, we will put it on standard and all those sorts of things. But I have to admit, like, the level of, how rigorous your team is beyond what I've imagined. But this is props to you. But is there a comment you want to say about your space of auditing in the current state of crypto right now?
Yeah, of course. So definitely, the level of standards for some auditing security firms, they don't care. They work with everyone. They don't do KYC. They have no responsibilities. So probably they don't care that much about their name, because they just do their job. I don't know how good they do, but they do. And definitely there should be some ranking of auditors, like some tiers, based on the trust they are providing, based on who they are, with whom they work, what they are building, how they are contributing to ecosystem at all. Because the problem with audits these days, that for guys like Consensus or Open Zeppelin, it's super difficult even to speak with them, because they are super overwhelmed, and I don't know when would be like next audit, next year or something, next spot for that. That's why. But just imagine there are like around 30, let's say 30 auditors in the market, and the amount of projects that need audits.
It's mind-bending.
No comments on that.
It's overwhelming. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's also too is what Jason was getting to also when it comes to Web3, when it comes to going from Web2, and why we're working with you when it comes to checkout is standardization. That there's never really been, there's no level of standards in this space at all whatsoever. And I think that's something that Embr's trying to do. And I think that's why we like working with you as a partner. And I think that's why, as Jason was just alluding to, when we were first working with you about the minutia of the details that you guys were so focused on, then when we set it back to our Slate developer, they're like, really, like these small things? And they're like, yeah, that's what they want to have done to be able to get their highest ranking. And so we were able to go through that process. So there's a little bit of delays. Some of our early investors were like, when's this audit coming out? Of course. But I think what's good is that you guys are setting a standard. And what we want to do is the same when it comes to Embr checkout and bringing on projects. And that's what we're using you guys as, like I said, the trust, verified by Hacken, to have this standardization across the board that hopefully, catches on. That where, there's a level of security there, because as Jason was saying also earlier, that there's so many hurdles to be able to get into this space initially. But one of the biggest ones is just trust. Because when people look at the space in general, they hear a lot about scams that are going on, and the level of entry to get into it, on top of also that level of distrust, it scares away, potential investors that could benefit from a lot of these projects.
Yeah, I just want to add that's definitely having, some standardization and methodology, how all that works, definitely help in industry. So how we're contributing here, we have our own methodology, how it works. It's open, everyone can see what we are checking, what input should we get from the customer, what outputs they get. And also as a part of Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, we're working also on some standardization on this trust for smart contracts, and definitely some kind of regulations on that needed in order to, to be able somehow to measure that and to understand whether should I invest in this project or not. Because in fact, it is kind of, trust report, not just smart contract, but in future I see it's like a trust mark that this project audited not once by like 3 different providers, whatever. They do penetration testing, they have ongoing bug bounty program, they are responsive, they take care about security. So this is like building blocks you should do in order to get this trust and to prove this along the time.
Yeah, let me just
go ahead, Jason.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to add this because I think this is probably something you're not aware yet, because we haven't sort of begun the whole auditing of checkout because we're still finalizing some things. We're about to release our own router. And beyond that, I just wanted to get your opinion and feedback on this thing that James, our CTO, has put in place. And I thought, that's really, truly amazing is every time someone, a potential investor, loads up, goes on a website or something of a project and the embed or whichever way it's a pop-up or a full page, as soon as it's loaded, the actual the actual checkout does a list of automatic check live every time it loads. Things like, does it have sufficient amount of liquidity? Is the liquidity locked? So that's beyond the snapshot that your team has done many months ago or many years ago, where we feel that checkout will be able to protect at some level the end user or the end consumer, like live, constantly. And if for whatever reason, when it loads that checkout interface and there's something in there that it doesn't comply with in regards to how we perceive should be the minimum standard of operating such token in regards to security and et cetera, and trust, then it's just going to be inoperable. You will not be able to interact on it. And if you want to interact on it, then you're going to have to go in the wild west of a DEX and buy it, copy it, like the old days. We'd like to think, that'd be the old days. You have to go around the mechanism of security and all those sorts of things. But this again, this is the type of joint effort that we want to do, and in combination, obviously, with the proofed trust score but we'd like to complement this with obviously your help of what should we be checking. And we're introducing also KYT. So on the other end, we want to, yes, there's the project side, like to protect the actual potential investor, but also when someone connects their wallet, we're going to be doing some form of seamless in the background KYT with one of our other partners, and to protect the project. Because we know as project leaders and the project leaders that we're going to be helping with these tools, that we're also under scrutiny of who purchases our assets, who's interacting with our smart contract. And sometimes, whether it's investors or partners or whatever, we want to make sure that whoever gets involved is someone with good intent or someone that doesn't have this past of collaborating or interacting with potential ill-intended people. So I'd like to get your thoughts on these type of measures on the front-facing sort of way of interacting with checkout.
Yeah, definitely sounds like preventive measures, actually. So doing everything possible in background in order to prevent some potential risks and issues that might be. Definitely, that sounds like a really wise idea. And yeah, we should think about
well, how to create this list and really
what it
look
should
at
be. Yeah.
best practices. Because as much as we want to put this list together, we've thought of like the quantitative elements and things like that, but I think there's things that are beyond the scope of what we can think, but also without eliminating bunch of potential projects and investors, keeping it safe but secure at a reasonable level. But yeah, this is super exciting, and for us, this is why we do what we do. So yeah,
Should
truly,
we schedule a call next week to
for sure
brainstorm on that?
Absolutely. I do also too have a question for you as well, which I'm sure a lot of people are thinking when it comes to an audit and when it comes to security, is that on your guys' side, how do you, because a level of security, and if a contract is secure, is not much to do with the people that are running the actual project when it comes to whether their behavior is nefarious or not. They might go through, all of, the standardization when it comes to the smart contract, so it's not, hackable, when it coming to preventable measures on that end. But how do you guys balance between auditing a project when it comes to the level of security of it and the actual individuals that you're working with? That way that if for some reason they do, have some kind of nefarious behavior, that your name's not dragged in the mud along with it.
So definitely we have clients acceptance procedures that we go through. So we don't work with every project. We have internal due diligence that we do and checking different parameters, including who they are, like who is backing them, what their track of record and other stuff. Definitely is the kind of background check we do. And don't work with every project because that's too many of them, and the quality of them not every time good, and not every time we just want to be associated somehow with them.
Yeah, I think also that was why we decided to use you guys. When it came to why we picked you as an auditor is because one thing that we were trying to, one of the hurdles that we had to get over was, having trust, people having trust in us, and being able to, as Jason was alluding to, was that, I don't know, what Cupcake Audit or whatever that, other auditing company was in the past that he was referring to from a different project, that we wanted to use someone that not only shows the level of security that we have with our smart contracts, but also too that we're working with an organization that wouldn't work with someone without doing the due diligence on their background as well. Jason, I know we're running out of time here a little bit here. We got about 10 more minutes left. Do you want to add any other questions to her? And as well, I'd like to ask, because we are live, I'm seeing all of the chats here across board. If anyone here has any questions to ask any of us, or we have Yev on here, she's very usually difficult to get a hold of from the general community to have this level of access from the general Embr community. So if you guys have any questions, please ask away. Jason, do you want to ask anything in the meantime while I see if we have anything from the community?
No. I think this conversation has been absolutely amazing. It took some time to organize because there's things that are out of our control, obviously. But maybe so as you know, we're also trying to with checkout, with Disbalancer, we're also trying to make because you've mentioned that people can collaborate and help in this collaborative sort of a effort by downloading the thing. But there's also maybe we can touch on there's ways of supporting also the project. And on our end, obviously we saw the actual process of purchasing their token that they decided to launch, which I think the ticker is DDoS, and for them to adopt checkout would obviously make their the token way more accessible and easier to purchase. But I think there's also a relationship between your token and theirs. Is this something you're quite familiar with, and that you could, because obviously Hacken has their own token as well, and there's ways of that the two collaborate or have an impact on each other?
Yeah, definitely. And Disbalancer is a separate project, and but it was like under our kind of cybersecurity accelerator.
It's like a spin-off.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And so with Hacken, you can do like DDoS farming and other stuff in our community application. So what else we do for community in terms of security? It's also like secure wallet, VPNs, password managers, and some educational programs that you can get at our Hacken AI product. And like DDoS also is there that you can farm it.
Excellent,
cool.
Excellent. I do. I'm looking at the community here as well, and one of the things, especially too, to kind of bring it back home, since you are from Ukraine and the situation has impacted you personally and your organization. and especially now with stuff like sanctions, and we have a lot of from a lot of the Western powers trying to be involved, but not really, and trying to walk this line. What are your thoughts when it comes to, especially with these geopolitical issues that are not only in Ukraine and Russia, but also around the world, and the impact and the importance of cryptocurrency, and to have a level of decentralization? Because I understand, on both sides, whether it's Russia or Ukraine, that without cryptocurrency, there would be pretty much assets that it would be hard to function financially.
Yeah, so definitely the impact in crypto is really huge, especially, for example, when we are having different donations in crypto all over the world in different chains. For example, VChain, they have their own fund helping Ukraine. There are a lot of NFT artists that gathering these donations to help. So in fact, crypto now is the method how to get support from everywhere, from every community. And yeah, it's pretty cool. And also what we see that a lot of projects are kind of supporting Ukraine and do some, sanctions regarding Russian citizens, Russian projects, which I know isn't about centralization or decentralization, but
no, absolutely. Because especially too, it's unfortunate, and this is why my heart goes out to everyone in Ukraine, and also too for the population of Russia, because
that didn't
a lot of these
necessarily ask for it.
They didn't have anything to do with this at all whatsoever, whether supported or not, are still being highly impacted. Because the oligarchs and people like Putin, they're not affected by. They'll be totally fine when it comes to these sanctions. It's the normal everyday citizen that's having to bear the brunt of all of this.
I won't comment on that regarding everyday citizen. Just prefer to skip this question.
Okay. No, understandable. Absolutely. So listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. We're not getting any more questions from the community, but they've been as I'm looking at here, they're really excited that you would be able to come on and have this discussion. We value you as a partner, especially moving forward when it comes to checkout. I think it's funny that we're on live air whereas Jason was mentioning what's going on with our router, what we're doing with checkout, where you guys are like, hey, we need to have a conversation later how to implement all of this together on the preventative measures also.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It was a pleasure to have this conversation, a lot of topics and interesting ideas afterwards. And definitely, let's think what we can do in terms of these background checks, preventive measures.
All right.
Listen, well, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. Listen, for everyone else that's out there, this is some of the interviews. This is one of many that we'll be bringing to you guys in the next coming of weeks. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. I'm looking forward to meeting your colleague next week at Bitcoin 2022. Anyone else that's going to be out there, hit me up, rob@embr.org, or any of our socials. I'd love to meet up with you guys next week. Jason, would you like to add anything before we get out of here?
Nope, let's get out of here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Have a great one, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Today at Embr. If you like the show, please rate and review. You can find us on all of the major podcasting platforms. You can also tune in to our live stream on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Thanks again for listening, and see you on the next episode.